when they realized that the CO2 scrubbers won't fit from the command module to the LEM.
Yeah.
And they're like, we need to fit, a square box into a round hole. And they give it to a group of engineers, and they just give them a pile of crap, right? It's just, I don't know, lavatory bags and books that they have up there and duct tape and a couple pieces of pipe.
Yeah.
And they say, make it work. You basically have, well, I guess this mixed with the powering up the battery sequence. We have 2 hours, 3 hours to figure this out, or everything falls apart.
See, I had that down for documentation.
I don't know. Yeah.
No? Okay.
That feels schedule-y to me. It's just weird because ours, normal project schedules would be months, weeks.
Yeah.
Starting to fine-tune down into days for important parts. And this is literally minutes. But it's still a schedule. It's like, these guys are going to die in 42 minutes.
Yeah.
So you need to figure out not only the solution, but also how to explain it to them.
Yep.
And have them execute on it. That's your schedule.
That's good. All right. I like it. All right. Moving on to documentation. So I have two examples. One is powering up the LEM. We have... It's normally the procedure's 3 hours by the book, but they have 15 minutes, which I loved.
I've done deployments like that
because it's great because he's got like the book and everything, and I'm like, where? It's 3 hours of documentation. Where do you even start? And then the other was the landing the landing procedure or the reentry. One where they had to make copies, lots of copies to hand out to everybody. What did you guys have or anything for documentation?
The flight plan.
Yeah.
Tear the cover off the flight plan.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. At some point, writing it down isn't helping.
No.
But
right.
if you, I don't know, like I
But
noticed.
that point is real late. It's really late.
I mean, but the flight plan is its own character throughout the whole post 53 minutes. They're carrying it around with them. He's using it to do math. They're all going against the flight plan. I don't know. It's its own thing in the movie.
Yeah. Like, I think all of them are so trained, and that's why the plan is so important to NASA. That you stick to the plan, you follow the plan. If you follow the plan, you will be successful and you will be rewarded. And in this circumstance, they are all asked to abandon the plan.
Yeah.
And just focus on what they know these things are capable of.
Right.
So it is kind of, to me, it felt anti-documentation because the bulk of the movie is the part of the plan where everyone has to like release themselves from the plan and go with what their expertise is.
Yeah. It's good.
Yeah, that was kind of my take on it, too, was it's more like, there is like when you're thinking about the documentation, there's a lot of documentation, but what stood out to me in general is about how NASA, and I think you can make other equivalents in the technology field about how individuals form sort of these relationships with intrinsic knowledge of like the systems that they're working with. They become more than subject matter experts. They know the stuff that isn't documented. You made the comment about like, I don't care what it was made to do, but like, what can it do? These are the people that know that. It's the stuff that's not written down. There was at some point, I think it was during the boot up procedure, they make like you're a steely-eyed missile man thing.
I love that.
And I was like, I know that quote. And I was like, and I was like, it's from The Martian, but I looked it up and it's actually, it's another NASA quote. It's from a flight commander of like Apollo 12. And Apollo 12, when it took off, it got struck by lightning right away and all their systems started going haywire. And this dude had seen this error before, this flight commander, and he did the research, he looked it up, he talked to the people, and they're like, if you just flip this switch, SEC to auto, it'll fix it. And so he, like, in the middle of the launch is like, tell him to SEC to auto, and everybody said, like, what the hell? Like, that was like what the astronaut said back.
Apollo 12, Houston, try SCE to auxiliary, over. Try SCE to auxiliary. What the hell is that? Fuel cell SCE to auxiliary. Try the buses. Get the buses back on the line. So everything looks good. SCE to aux.
And they flipped it, and it just fixed it. And they went on. It was fine.
Well,
but
good.
it's those people.
Yeah.
Back to resourcing and
Well-
value keeping.
Yeah. And the thing is by the end of the problem solving, they all have to abandon the plan. But I also don't want to sound anti-documentation, because the reason that they can abandon the plan and they can do it in group is because they invested in documentation at the beginning. They invested in making sure that every single person who was going to be in that building knew everything they possibly could about how it was built and what its constraints are and what its limitations are. And everyone, I mean, they probably didn't, but normal people are like, why do I even need to know this? I just have to flip this switch at 32 seconds. But what allowed them to be successful at the end was the intrinsic knowledge that everyone had about the systems that they had made.
It's good.
I have one last one that is very more funny, but you can cut this out if you want. But maybe it's foreshadowing too, is when they're doing, because you know the whole TV show scene where they're on the air apparently, but they're not. Jim's mom, Blanche, is trying to watch it on her TV and they can't find the channel, and she says, "It's that damn TV guide again."
I know,
So,
she's
like,
so disappointed.
Anti-documentation, so I don't know.
That's good.
Didn't go to plan.
I like it. Okay, next one is the best project management tool in the movie. So I've got a couple of nominees. One is obviously the simulator, where he's basically doing some round. I don't know, like it's just in there. They were like, "Here's a flashlight." He's like, "That's not the flashlight they have up there. Don't give me anything they don't have." And then the other nominee I
Which, by
have,
the way, is like a staging site.
yeah, yes, it is. It is like a staging site. And then Jim Lovell's pencil, when he's doing the math, I would say, in my opinion, is the best project management tool in it, because he he literally does math while they're asphyxiating from carbon monoxide poisoning, right? Is that what it is? All right, what do you guys have?
I had a nomination that is a little goofy, which is the no post-it.
Oh,
yeah,
with the duct tape.
The
Good.
Swigert sticks to
Where
the control panel. He's
doesn't
like,
eject
he's
them
like,
into
"Dude,
space."
I'm paraphrasing, but he's like, shit was getting weird. And I wanted to make sure that under no circumstances did I flip that switch. And sometimes my to-do lists are things to do, and sometimes my to-do lists are things to absolutely not do.
Yeah.
And I put it there because I know it's where I'm looking all the time.
Right.
So I can slip reminders in there to myself of things to avoid. So I am nominating
It's good.
the no sign.
Yeah, it's like a early Post-it note, you know.
Yeah, it's a spacey
Space Post-it note.
a space emergency Post-it note.
Yeah, I like it.
And there was so much moisture. A normal Post-it wouldn't have stuck.
There was, no, it's true.
Yeah.
All right.
So, coming from one of the two UX people in the room, the whiteboard of 1970,
Yes.
the chalkboard.
Yeah. Oh, I liked that he had the overhead projector, but that didn't even work.
Yeah.
So
Nope.
they had
Yep.
to go with it.
Nope.
Like, even that broke.
Yep. Yep. Sorry.
It's good. Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right. I'm going to move on to the most client-like moment. I've got a number of nominees for this one. Number one is when Swiggert's docking with the LEM or with the command module, and Tom Hanks is like leaning over his shoulder the entire time.
Breathing down his
He's
neck.
just breathing down his neck. You know, and the one guy's like, "Come on, rookie, park that thing." Like that one. Anything with Dr. Chuck, the doctor, the NASA doctor. Anything,
Flight surgeon.
the flight
Yep.
surgeon. Anything with him. Anything with Dr. Chuck. You know. And then two last ones, and these are kind of sad, but I'm just going to bring them up anyways. When they have to call Marilyn to tell her that they're losing oxygen, and then when she has to go and tell their kid, and the kid asks, "Was it the door?"
Oh, God, that killed me.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so rough. Okay, all right. What do you guys got?
So, I think I misread the question,
No, go ahead.
but most stakeholder-like person, I guess.
Yeah.
And I put Marilyn down
Yeah.
because it's as though the entirety of NASA has to answer to Marilyn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She is so infuriated, of course.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But she's the one who's on the other end of the line
Yeah.
freaking out and holding them to
Yeah.
something. And when my husband is back on Friday.
But the whole world is caught up in it. It's the biggest
No,
story
Henry.
since-
Those people don't put one piece of equipment on my lawn. If they have a problem with that, they can take it up with my husband. He'll be home on Friday.
Exactly. Yes.
I had like a tangential one, or not tangential, maybe semi-related. Is it Jim's mom is Blanche?
Blanche.
Is that
Yeah,
right?
Blanche, yep.
And this is a little bit sassy.
That's
about
actually
clients.
Ron Howard's mother.
Really? She
Yeah.
was amazing.
Yeah, she's great.
When they're watching the re-entry, and the two
Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin.
and they're like distracting her with iced tea.
Yeah, that's great.
It feels client-y to me because sometimes the client knowing everything that's going on with the team that's losing their
Yeah.
shit is not helpful.
No.
So I don't mean that they should lie, and
Yeah.
I don't think that they lie to her, but they keep her
No,
occupied.
I've had those moments. So did Jim make
Eagle
Eagle
Scout?
Scout or not? So
How was Cancun?
exactly.
And I don't mean that to sound so overtly condescending,
No,
but
no.
sometimes she's obviously super invested, but she also can't really help.
Yeah, right.
So
More information is not going to help her.
right.
Yeah.
You need to keep her appraised, you need to keep her feeling involved, but she's not going to show up in mission control.
I think on the complete opposite side of that spectrum, for me, it's like when like Nixon calls them, and they're like the president wants an update, and they kind of say like we're not losing him. They're like he wants like stats.
He wants a
like, what are the
percentage.
odds
He wants a
here?
percentage.
And then they're like oh, there's 1 out of 3 or whatever. Like, but it's just so far removed from everything else that's going on.
That's
it's just
a good
like
one.
the cold hard fact.
That's a good one. I can't. I shouldn't have. I would have missed that one. Okay. All right. The best team motivator. I only have one nominee. That's Jim Lovell. Other than that, who do you guys think could be nominated for best team motivator?
I referenced the same quote Jason mentioned. Gentlemen, what are your intentions?
Yeah.
I'd like to go home.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, for me, I guess the other one would be Gary Sinise.
Yeah.
Like I think when he, shows back up and he starts to figure it out. I mean, like his big thing is right. Like, how do we turn this thing back on or use it with how many volts? I think the other people were ready to say it's like completely impossible.
Yep.
And he's the dude that pulled that all together on the ground.
Yep.
And I actually thought I couldn't really get over how awesome it was, how awesomely perfect it was how they handled him. So he comes in, the team is already desperate. They've already won a lot of stuff, but they're nowhere near done. And they bring him in as a subject matter expert, and instead of barraging him with their baggage and with what they've tried and has failed, instead they let him come in and they tell him just what the problem is. The problem is we need to get to 12.
And he's the finisher for the
He's
project.
the closer.
Yeah.
And had he been there from the beginning, he would have been just as frustrated. He's an extraordinary man, but he's not a superhero.
No.
And part of the benefit of bringing in a subject matter expert is letting them come in fresh and be brilliant. Like they are brilliant, but don't bring them in and then have them sit in front of the team for 45 minutes while the team hands all of their emotional baggage over.
I think that brings up
that's a
another
very good
thing,
point.
another subject matter expert point when it comes to Gary Sinise's character is when they're practicing the simulator and they are supposed to be done and the Kevin Bacon team is waiting and he says, you know what, that wasn't good enough. And nobody really questioned him. They were like, okay, we're going back in. And they trusted his judgment because he's the expert. That was great.
Yes. Yeah. I loved that it showed so many examples of individuals being brilliant in a team.
Right.
Which is also incredibly
Yes.
hard in real life and is such a great
beautiful
thing
thing.
to aspire to
Yeah.
in basically every project is how do I let all of these brilliant people, how do I help them all be brilliant people too, but together.
Yeah.
And I loved that.
That's good.
One of a little one that just I felt in this moment of stress helped with comic relief was Jim leading the medical mutiny.
I am sick and tired of the entire Western world knowing how my kidneys are functioning.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Just having a
everybody,
little medical mutiny here.
Just lay off. It's fine.
Yeah. This is not the problem we need to solve.
No.
And the rest of the team in the spaceship is like, hell yeah, I'm doing that too.
Yep.
You
You're right. That was a great moment of camaraderie
Yeah.
where it was like, we're going to break the rules.
Yeah.
Jim's going to
Rebels.
let us.
It's good. All right. Next one is the biggest exception curveball, which is like the entire movie, basically. So, I've got a couple of nominees for the biggest exception. One is the center engine cutting off right in the beginning, like the first thing. It's like the first big issue that